Man, I feel like I look like the great drummer who passed this past year from Rush with this particular cap on my head. Neil Peart. I put that cap on my head. I said, man, that's the Neil Peart look. God rest his soul. So, Christianity. Come here, boo-boo. Let's come on inside. It's wet out there. Little man likes to hang out the window, but it's kind of cool and rainy out, so he's gonna stay on my lap for now. This is a really difficult issue to address because there are, this is difficult to address because there are millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Christians or people who consider themselves to be Christians or call themselves Christians, or there's a mix, right? There's some 2,000 different denominations. There's charismatics, there's denominational, non-denominational. There's people that are very devout, very church-going, religious people, Christians, holiday Christians, right? So addressing Christianity is difficult because there are so many Christians in such a diverse way, and when you throw into the mix these two words, true Christianity, false Christianity, right? You have Catholicism. A lot of people get confused. Catholics will say, oh, you're a Christian, but yet Catholics are supposed to be essentially Christian. I mean, Catholicism is, associated with Christianity, right? I mean, they talk about Christ. We do know that the name Christ comes from the Roman Catholic Church. We do know that Protestantism exists because, it pretty much started when Martin Luther, nailed his theses on the church door, saying that the Catholic Church was off kilter, right? They were saying and doing things wrong that were not consistent with the teachings of Christ. But think about that. Think about before Martin Luther, I mean, if that was in the 1500s and Christ, the man who existed, who's referred to as Jesus Christ, existed 2,000 years ago, that's 1,500 years of what? That was the church? That was Christianity? No. Actually, the Roman Catholic Church was nothing more than the fact that the Roman government attempted to quell all of the clashes and division between the Jews and the Christians and the pagans, and all the conflicts that existed between them back at, from the days of, when the man referred to as Jesus Christ walked on the earth, for the next 300 years, right? There were, especially because of the man that walked on the earth, who's referred to as Jesus Christ, there was all kinds of divisions that got started back then that created conflicts between, that new sect, that new religion called Christianity, and the Jews and the pagans. So the Roman government, Constantine in Constantinople, basically said, okay, we're going to adopt Christianity, but they brought all their pagan idols and pagan worship, in with them, right? Because the Romans at the time, they were pagans. They weren't Jews, they weren't Christians, they were just secular, just people, really referred to as pagans. They had all kinds of, just like the Greeks and, the different people that had different gods and religions. The concept of Christianity is that, most Christians think of the Jews as being God's chosen people, right? That's kind of an infamous kind of line, oh, the Jews are God's chosen people. The Old Testament, was the book of the Jews, and, they were the ones that were supposed to be the light of the world. They were, the ones that were walking with God. But now we have a whole nother problem because we have to talk about Jews. What is a Jew? Who is a Jew? The word Jew's only been around for a few hundred years. Who are the true Israelites? Who, there are groups of black people that say the blacks were the true Israelites. There are, whites who say, that the proof exists that whites, the Welsh, the Scottish, the Irish, were...
Ay, coño!
Oh, man, this guy just got hit by a car.
Oh my God!
Just down, right?
Man, lo tumbó.
Let's go check out, make sure. Well, he's walking, so I won't stop. I won't stop because he's walking. Boy, it could have been worse. Yeah.
Sorry, Luquito. I love you.
Yeah, that guy,
Ay, Dios mío.
the guy was at fault. I mean, the bicyclist was going on
Ay, Dios.
a sidewalk and trying to cross. The guy didn't stop, before the stop sign. Man, could have been worse. At least he didn't get run over. Hurt his leg and crunched his bike, but...
Oh my God.
So, mercy. Fortunately, it wasn't worse, or I'd have been stopping, being that I'm an EMT, or at least I was an EMT. I have the training. Every time I've ever come across an accident, I always stop and apply my knowledge and skills to the injured person. I've come across some bad accidents, even though I didn't keep up with my license. I have the background and the training. I was an ocean lifeguard for 5 years and an emergency medical technician. So I do have the knowledge, the skills, and the background. So when I see an accident, I stop, but wasn't really necessary there. So anyway, back to, this complex discussion on Christianity. Now Lucky can hang out the window because we're not driving too fast. So the Roman Catholic Church, was really just the Roman government, that was saying, let's put an end to all this conflict between the Christians and the Jews and the pagans. And so it became like, the authority. And let's, face it, Rome, in a nutshell, the first known world empire, in terms of there being an empire that went around conquering other lands, was Babylon. And then Babylon was conquered by the Medes and the Persians, and then of course Greece conquered Medo-Persia, and then Rome conquered Greece and conquered the world, and then of course Rome ruled for 1500 years, really until the United States of America. I mean, Rome began to fall apart, kind of over the last few hundred years. I mean, the United States of America exists because people were fleeing from the religious persecution of the Roman Catholic hierarchy in Europe. That's what we called the Dark Ages. I mean, because the church was Roman Catholic, it was the Roman government that declared the church and put the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution into power, into being as the official church. It was government, It was religio-political. Much like Islam. Islam is a religio-political system. It's the government and the religion. So Rome created that religio-political system, the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution, and they essentially, being that they were a nation, a state that was still endeavoring to conquer the world, as the religious leaders, through the Catholic Church, the bishops and the monks and, the Pope. I mean, kings and queens. I reference this in a few other videos. It's raining again, so you got to come in, Lucky Dog. Kings and queens literally had to answer to the Pope, They had to get permission to the Pope to do things. And again, many of the Christians that did not accept the Roman government and their their version of Christianity, their official state mandated version of Christianity, which is what's coming, folks, in the future, by the way. In a nutshell, Daniel and Revelation talk about a beast power. The beast power is the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution, and it says that the beast would receive a deadly wound, and that happened to be when the Pope was taken captive by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1798. But it says, and the Roman Catholic Church didn't have any power over the world after that, when the Pope was taken captive. After 1798, into the 1800s, 1900s, it was all about the United States of America, That kind of became the world power, But it says the deadly wound will be healed. So essentially, those who are behind the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution, they're in the process of regaining their power. You know, it says the beast received a deadly wound and the deadly wound was healed. Well, look, you know, Donald J. Trump appointed 3 Jesuits to the Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, what does that tell you? You know, the Jesuits are the highest order of the Roman Catholic Papal Institution. And it's my understanding that all of our Supreme Court justices now are Jesuits. So, you know, basically the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution sent its envoys into the United States over the last couple hundred years to intermingle with politicians and using their money and their influence to worm their way into the government of the United States of America. So those are the you know, all roads lead to Rome, right? That's the real power structure, is that Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution. That's the power. They ruled the world supremely for 1,500 years. So the point is that when Martin Luther started Christianity, nailed his theses. Boo-boo, no, it's raining outside. Began his theses, put his theses on the door of, all the, the statues and, Virgin Mary and, the prayer beads and, men dressed up in robes and, the Pope calling himself God on earth. For years, the Pope had a mitre inscribed. It was inscribed on his mitre, Vicarius Filii Dei, which means vicar of the Son of God. The Pope was considered God in the flesh, in place of the Son of God, in place of, because again, the concept in Christianity, right, is that God, the creator of all that exists, incarnated into the flesh and became a perfect man through the virgin woman Mary. That Mary was a descendant of David, of King David, and so it's all consistent with the prophecies, right? That this man would come through David's lineage, through his bloodline, and Mary was a descendant of David, and that's the story, the idea, the concept, right? Is that God would incarnate in the form of a human being and would come into the world through a woman, but not of man, right? Of God. So the man referred to as Jesus Christ, which again, there's a whole other avenue of discussion here, because people will say his name wasn't Jesus because there were no vowels and it was pronounced Yeshua, right? Yeshua, some people think that's significant. I would tend to agree. The name is the name. Because again, I mentioned this in a recent video, Jesus Christ, right? It's not like his first name was Jesus and his last name was Christ, right? Jesus Christ. No, the name Christ, Christos, even was a name that came from the Roman Catholic Vatican Papal Institution, which was all relative to their religiosity and their ceremonials and their rituals, right? With their little, their little piece of bread, right? That they anoint, and call the body of Christ, right? So the whole origin, there are some people who assert that Christianity as we know it is the Antichrist. It's fabricated. That it's not to say there wasn't a man on the earth and allegedly, a miraculous man, an incarnation of God in the flesh, right? Who performed miracles and whatnot, and wouldn't have been able to do that unless it was the Creator incarnate in the flesh, right? The point being that I saw an interesting video that really tried to do away with Christianity altogether, making the claim that, the name Jesus Christ, they got into the whole thing of, sci-fi pi or whatever the words were that, that were created by the Roman Catholic Church, and, that X, is the symbol for Ekis, and how John in Revelation, when he said 666, he didn't use the number 666, he used, 3 words, phi, pi, psi, or whatever the words were, I forgot, that were representative of saying there will be a man named Jesus Christ, right? That will be the Antichrist. So the point is that there's an image of a man named Jesus Christ. So now that could be true. It doesn't mean there was no man on the earth. And this is where people get stuck too. This is where people are going to have a problem, because people who believe in Jesus Christ essentially are believing in a man who was alleged to be here, who was an incarnation of God in the flesh, right? That's what they're really believing in. But over decades or hundreds of years, centuries, they've simultaneously, used all kinds of misinformation, disinformation, lies, deception, misleading concepts and ideas to formulate an image and a concept of a Jesus Christ that wasn't really Yeshua, right? That wasn't really the man who was here, right? So what some people will do is they try to get rid of Christianity altogether. There was no man Jesus Christ. Oh, look at his age, 33. You ever seen that number before? Oh, 33, right? The number of, of the Masons, right? The Freemasons number, 33 degrees. And it is interesting correlation. Many people miss out on this. Even when I used to watch these, television show called Ancient Aliens, and they would show, on the 33rd parallel of the world, on the 33rd degree, right, on a map, is where all these, the pyramids of Egypt and the pyramids around the world, all are on the 33rd degree. Well, it's interesting that, and I never heard them reference this on those TV shows, but, the Bible, again, however symbolic it is another topic, but it indicates that 1/3 of the angels fell from heaven, right? That there was war in heaven and 1/3, rebelled. So 1/3 is, 33. So anything relative to 33 certainly seems to have association with fallen angels, whatever that might be, whether they are spiritual entities, whether they are physical entities, or whether it's, again, just all cryptic and we're in a game and it's just all part of a, symbology, right? But 33 seems to be a number representative of that kind of the evil forces, the evil powers. But again, I can go another direction with this conversation, because the argument can be made that the Masons are not the child-eating, adrenochrome drinking, child molesting, perverts at the high end. That's all a ruse just to confuse people and scare people and keep them away from it. And only those who seek out the truth will even become Masons at a 33 degree level. That they are actually good people. They're the people in the world that are running the world. And they put all the smut and crap in the world and allow everything to exist just like God would, right? To see who's who, to see who's made of what, right? So there's alternate interpretations for things, right? But sticking with Christianity, some people will just try to discredit Christianity altogether, right? And for good reason, for good cause. Again, to the extent that people will say religion was created for the purpose of manipulating and controlling people, to the extent that they will say, again, Christos and, the symbolism, Phi, Pi, Psi, whatever, again, the original, symbol was that John wrote in the original text, representative of a man named Christ, right? So therefore, Jesus Christ, knowing that wasn't his real name anyway, but they've created this image of a man named Jesus Christ, which they're using to manipulate and control the entire world with. Well, that would actually facilitate bringing in even a false man walking on the earth one day that they're going to say is Jesus Christ returned, right? Although Christians who really study the Bible well, they know that the Bible is very clear that at least assuming it's literal and real, that there's a man returning named Jesus Christ who was God incarnate in the flesh 2,000 years ago, that his feet are not going to touch the ground. When he comes back the second time, he will be in the air. He will be up in the sky, and the righteous that are worthy of moving on will be, resurrected from the graves, and they will be changed in the twinkling of an eye, those that are still alive and living, and will put on their miraculous, heavenly bodies, and will all be, raptured and taken up out of this world at his second coming. He won't put his feet on the ground. So we'll leave, but then there'll be other people on the earth that are being misled by, a false Christ. Or that false Christ will already be here misleading people when Christ does come back in the air. And when he does come back, because the Bible indicates that everybody who is here, who's left, when he returns, will be destroyed by the splendor of his coming, right? So the ultimate biblical truth from a Bible perspective is that there's going to come a man that they're going to say he's Jesus Christ on the earth. Many people are going to fall for it. He's going to be teaching and preaching, and he's going to be controlling the world, but he's really going to be the Antichrist. He's going to be, Satan himself incarnate, the devil, acting as if he's Christ. He's going to be controlling the world because now he has rounded up everybody. He's got everybody following him through technology, through AI, which, like I said, that man probably most likely is going to be AI to begin with. It's not going to be a real flesh and blood person or a quote-unquote Satan in the flesh. It's going to be AI. It's going to be artificial intelligence. It's going to be, look, it wouldn't surprise me. I believe that they already have, there's no question in my mind, they've already created AI, robots, androids, that can be walking around and you'd think it was a person, and that they're doing that on purpose. They will put them on television, on a stage with real people, interacting with them for the TV, because remember, the people that work for TV are paid actors to begin with anyway, right? So those people may well know themselves that it's an android, but they're beholden to not, let the cat out of the bag and say anything, or they might not even know. They could do an android that looks like anybody. They could do an android that looks like Trump or looks like Biden. They can do a robot that looks exactly. I mean, look at the Hall of Presidents at Disney, and that's deliberately made to look real, but yet not, 100%, where they actually have the ability to do 100%. They can have way superior than what's in the Hall of Presidents at Disney, I mean, look at how they're coming out now again with sex bots. I referenced that in a recent video, where now they've got, women with, the material feels like flesh, looks like flesh. They got boobies, they got ass, a nice round ass, right? They probably have, a little, slit, that with what feels like a vagina, and a man's ejaculating inside a machine, and then he pulls out the little cartridge, right, to empty it out or something. It's sick. The world is sick. They're creating sex bots, women, that'll probably give you oral sex, and you can have sex with it, because they're creating them with materials and fabric, and they can speak. They're using AI, artificial intelligence, and chemistry, and mechanics, and creating. They've got them now for sale, sex bots, right? So they make them as real as can be, right? Because they want them to be as real as can be, just for that purpose. So you can rest assured, I might as well say it now because I haven't gotten a response back from Elon Musk, but I invited Elon Musk to do a Zoom meeting with me. Apparently he chickened out. He's too afraid to deal with Mike Singer from the BigVirusHoax.com because he knows he'll get tripped up. But there are some people who say Elon Musk is AI. I've seen videos where he had certain, like mechanical movements, but yet looked very real. And it could be there's two. Maybe there's really a guy named something else, but they did a robot image of him and called him Elon Musk, There could be two people, one that's a real person and one that's actually AI, and that they've used him as the model for Elon Musk. Because if they put artificial intelligence with it, right? If they put artificial intelligence in that AI Elon Musk, or an AI Trump, or an AI anybody, right? And they're using artificial intelligence, AI, for the brain, it's going to be super smart, right? It's going to be smarter than any person in terms of being able to calculate, in terms of being able to, again, I have some questions that I would pose to Elon Musk. I have questions I would pose to AI that would trip up AI. I have all the right questions. I have the questions that would defeat AI. The truth will prevail, right? It's the truth that will prevail. You can't beat the truth. So, and God is the truth, right? I am the way, the truth, and the life, the creator, right? God, truth. But again, I'm trying to get this back to Christianity. I really want to finish up on the idea of Christianity, because there's some relativity here, though, obviously, because again, when we're talking about Christianity, we have to talk about the Antichrist, right? True Christianity, false Christianity. But I'm covering a lot in this video for people's benefit that aren't aware of all these things, but it's to make the point that there are some people who try to discredit Christianity altogether, that the whole thing is a fabrication. Again, I've seen many videos that correlate, Christ to the stars in the sky and the seasons, and, the sun, in the vernal equinox, and, when the sun's the furthest away it can be in the winter, you know, and it sets for 3 days and then the sun comes back and brings life. I'm familiar with all that. But again, it could be both. It could be that, you know, here's the ultimate thing. There was a man that walked on the earth. I wasn't there 2,000 years ago. I didn't see miracles with my own eyes. I never have, other than my own experiences. There are a couple things I could certainly chalk up to being miracles and intervention from the Creator God Almighty in my life. About 3 of them that I can reference. But God is not to be played with. God is not a toy. God is not to be manipulated. You can't manipulate God. God is the unseen, invisible, all-powerful force. Knows all and can do anything, but does not intervene, right? Can intervene and does intervene based on his or her or its intent and will, right? Not because we ask it, not because, you know, although we could too, right? And you know, the point is we cannot, there's a fine line between a person saying, oh, I prayed and this happened, when it could have been coincidence, and a person truly praying for something that happens because it was a miracle, right? Because both occur. But the point is, again, that there are people that completely endeavor to discount Christianity, and they may be accurate to discount Christianity because, again, Christos comes from the Roman Catholics, the man Jesus Christ, this image of a concept of Jesus Christ that they've created that is not necessarily the same man who walked on the earth, right? That may well have been God incarnate. See, I don't know that. I don't know if that was true or not. Those are the stories, but I don't believe stories. I don't believe in man. I don't put my faith in man. You know, I go direct to the Creator. And if that doesn't work, then I'm more than happy to be destroyed and not exist anymore ever again. I have no problem with my existence being wiped out because I have no fear, right? Which, again, most people are controlled by fear. Religious concepts pretty much manipulate and control people through fear, right? If you don't do this, you're going to burn in hell forever, right? Or even those that don't believe you burn in hell forever, you know, they still have a degree of fear because, well, I want to make it to heaven. I don't want to lose my life. No, I don't care. If things are not, you know, I don't want to live for eternity with no free will. I don't want to live for eternity being some kind of a slave or, you know, being fearful of some creator that might wipe me out because I said the wrong thing or thought the wrong thing or did the wrong thing. No, I'm not into that. And see, that's all religious-based concepts of Christianity. So, cuando tu regreso, yo puedo ayudarte con la tuya, okay? Getting ready to walk, Lucky Dog. It's time to walk the baby boy. He's gonna take. This is where he does his little walk. We take him for his walk right here. He's gonna take a walk. Walk. Ready? Go walk that walkie. Mama's gonna take him for a walk. All right. So I want to address this because possibility A or one, right? One possibility. Christianity is completely false, all fabricated. There was no man who was a miraculous person who did miracles. It was all fabricated as a story to manipulate and control people. Is that possible? That's possible. Option number 2. There was some man, and he wasn't God in the flesh. He was just a very articulate man, a smart man, a philosopher, influenced a lot of people. And at the time, there were a lot of strife going on with Catholics and Jews. So, a lot of people were enthralled with this man, and it was creating conflicts. So the Roman government said, you know what, let's just adopt this, some of these Christian ideas that these people are talking about from this philosopher. Got knocked offline again. Every time I'm in this area, I get knocked offline. So I was saying, I got to repeat because I don't know how far back I got knocked off. But, one possibility, right, is there was no man, there was no Jesus. The whole thing is completely fabricated, a religious concept to control people. I don't believe that's the case. Certainly possible. 2, there was a man, but he wasn't God in the flesh. He was just some smart guy, articulate, and he was a philosopher. And many people followed him, and because they did, it was creating, conflicts at the time between the Jews and the Catholics. The Jews and the Romans and this group of people. So, it got to a point after a couple hundred years of conflicts that's why, in 300 AD, Constantine and Constantinople said, okay, let's just adopt some of these people's ideas and philosophies, and, we'll just create this new religion, which became the Catholic Church. It became a state religio-political system, and they ruled the world, supremely for 1,500 years. But there were people that were like, well, wait, no, that's not really what the man taught, and therefore that created these different sects of Christianity. That's a possibility. The third possibility is that the whole thing was, manipulated further by the Roman Catholic Church, with astrology and astronomers, and, let's apply concepts of the stars to this man, and, therefore they came up with December 25th as his birthday, because that's when the sun is furthest to the south, during the winter, where it sets for 3 days, and then the sun rises after 3 days, and then Easter, they took their pagan holidays and started applying them to this man, to help further facilitate peace. So all fabricated in that regard. That's a possibility. The other possibility, which to me is, certainly possible, because I do believe we're here by creative design, is that God, the creator of all that exists, we look at the examples in the Bible of the flood, and God says he was, ashamed that he created human beings, and he had to destroy the world, and Sodom and Gomorrah and all the perversion and immorality, and, free will breeds sickness and problems and crime and evil, because of the free will. But yet people have to have free will. So the Creator said, I need to go into the flesh. As the creator of all that exists, I will incarnate myself through a virgin woman, and come into the world not through man, but by way of myself through a woman, to be this man in the world who's a perfect man, who will teach and heal and give teaching. So he was a philosopher, he was a teacher, and he would go ahead. It's okay. So he would go ahead and kind of do what he could to give the ultimate best possible teachings of life and how human beings should live. Now see, a lot of that, let's assume that's true, is still molded and folded into what we would call the fake Christianity, because there's no way of getting around from it. That's why, again, they say the devil mixes truth with error. The devil can't just give only error to people, because people will know, no, that's a lie, and no, that's bullshit, and no, that's evil, and no, that's immoral. So the devil has to mix truth with error. And when I say the devil, whether literal or figurative, okay? I prefer it figurative, but whatever, the devil, right? Wrongness, manipulators, cons, deceivers, people who, are not really godly. They're not trying to seek the high road. They're not really interested 100% in truth and righteousness and morality and what's right. They're in it for themselves. They're in it to deceive others for their own benefit or whatever, right? So whether devil literal or figurative is really irrelevant to me. The point is that they can, the devil mixes truth with error, right? Because whoever is going to try to deceive somebody or mislead somebody, even a person, all right, bad people mix truth with error, okay? Probably your greatest, you could probably say your greatest salespersons mix truth with error, right? They exaggerate, right? The media, right? Advertising and marketing mixes truth with error. They blow things out of proportion. They exaggerate because they're trying to convince and manipulate and persuade and coerce and condition people into doing what they want people to do. That's what the media does, right? So, look, everybody has their own walk, but to me, the bottom line is you cannot completely discount Christianity, because one thing is certain, there are, at least, even if they're just stories, even when I see a video where somebody's reading from a book and that was, alleged to be the actual writings of Pontius Pilate, an actual Roman governor who existed 2,000 years ago, who wrote things down in a book. I'm sure there are records that exist from 2,000 years ago and more, where people have written things, right? Where things are written down by governors and kings and queens from thousands of years ago. So when somebody's reading from a book and they're saying, here's a quote from Pontius Pilate, the man who was charged with carrying out the execution of the man referred to as Jesus Christ, Yeshua, whoever the man was, right? And he's speaking about the man. All right, the man existed, right? There's plenty of evidence that there was a man. You know, I have no problem with having a problem with the name Jesus Christ, right? But again, the name Jesus Christ is what is commonly used to reference this man who walked, who may very well have been God, the creator of all that exists, incarnate in a miraculous form to be a human being who was perfect, because no human being is, right? And therefore, he came to set the example, right? I do have problems with the sacrificial system. I do have problems with religious ideas about, sacrificing animals or pleasing God with sacrifices. That could all have been man-made. I don't necessarily think that the Creator, God Almighty, required sacrifices. That's a big part of Judaism, which Christianity stems from and comes out of, right? Old Testament Judaism. And see, we have a problem with this issue of Judaism again, too, because, I frequently reference Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 that says, those who call themselves Jews but are not, they are liars. I will make them to fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you, right? So there's a reference that there's some people in the world that call themselves Jews who aren't even really Jews. And then there's this whole modern day thing of, what we call Zionist Jews, right? So which I've made the point of that before. Think of, if the vast majority of Christians and Bible-believing people have this concept in their mind that the Jews were God's chosen people, when again, the word Jews only been around for a few hundred years. The Israelites were God's chosen people, right? But who are the Israelites, right? And again, when we say the Israelites were God's chosen people, we're just talking about the fact that there was a group of people thousands of years ago. There were people that sought the Creator, that they turned to this invisible force of nature, of creation, and acknowledged and would give acknowledgement and thanks to this unseen great force, the Creator, right? Whatever that might be, we don't know. There might not be, I've said also, there might not be a God. Could all be a figment of our imagination, but the concept of God itself is the greatest and highest imagination that human beings can have, because it's the basis for natural procreation. It's the basis for morals, ethics, principles, things that lead to traditional family values and decency and morals and ethical laws and decency and that's the basis for that. If you take that away, if you take God, even if it's just a concept, and throw it away, and let's get rid of God, it's essentially representative of a free-for-all. Anything goes. There's no more such thing as moral, because morals become nothing but relative. Moral relativity. It's all relative, right? Look, that woman loves her dog. She loves having sex with her dog, and she wants to marry her dog because she wants that intimate bond with her dog, right? That's how she feels. So that's okay. We can let that be marriage now, right? Just like they've done with a man and a man, right? Or a woman and a woman. It's the same thing. Oh, they feel love for one another, and therefore they can be in holy matrimony with one another. It's not holy matrimony, but they can be married, right? With one another. It's all relative. Moral relativity, right? There's no age on children, there's no such thing as pedophilia, again, having sex, anybody of any age having sex with anybody of any age is all relative, right? Becomes moral relativity, right? There's no foundational essence of morals or principles or, understanding of, well, actually, wait, children are young, they're impressionable, they're not fully developed. We must let them develop. They're vulnerable. They're impressionable. Let's teach them, and let's let them be influenced by good, positive things. No, let's let children, like they're doing today, play video games of blood splattering and killing and guns and violence, and make women bitches and whores and just perversion, immorality. See, take God out of the equation, and you have a completely immoral, defunct reality for human beings. So even if there's not a God literally, the concept of God is the basis for morals and decency. So I say that must be the basis for how humanity deals with the reality of life, right? Now, when we get into the religious aspects, people are going to have different beliefs for different reasons because of the way they're taught, what their parents teach them, the way they're raised, what makes more sense to them, what they're more comfortable with. Yes, you're going to have churches where people are just trying to make money, right? You know, you got preachers making millions and millions of dollars and having all their, you know, collections of hundreds of cars, right, Joel Osteen? You know, when they could be living a more meek and humble, simple life and using that money to feed the poor and develop in the community and create all kinds of opportunities for other people that don't have opportunities. So, you know, the essence of Christianity is godliness, righteousness, morals, decency, principles, right? And again, to the extent of, you know, you must believe. See, it can be interpreted differently. You must believe in Jesus Christ to be saved. Well, that could again be relative to a religious control mechanism, right? They created this concept of Jesus Christ, you know, separate and apart from the man who really was, you know, the God incarnate, where they added and, you know, and created, you know, figments of concepts and ideas about Christianity and the name Jesus Christ and, you know, and the relativity of the Roman Catholic Church and all the different denominations of Christianity that emerged. So, could be man-made, right? Oh, well, you know, you must believe in this. Otherwise you're going to burn in hell forever and ever, right? Another, again, fear-based control tactic. So I don't know that the Creator, God Almighty, is going to determine a person's eternal existence based on what they believe in their mind. Belief. I don't see the Creator as having belief be the basis for whether a person has an eternal existence or not. All right. Now, their belief will shape their actions and their behaviors. So therefore, in a roundabout way, we can say, if you really do believe, you're therefore acting in accordance with that. You're acting with decency and morals. And therefore, you know, the Creator can look down and say, no, there's a person that's seeking to be right. There's a person that's trustworthy. There's a person that's not self-destructive. There's a person who appreciates the body I gave them. There's a person who acknowledges me and gives thanks to me. There's a person who can be trusted behind closed doors. And they acknowledge me and they give thanks to me, and they're endeavoring to walk right. And if they walk wrong, they ask me for forgiveness, which I clearly forgive them, and they seek to change their ways and to overcome. Jesus said, he who overcometh, the same shall be saved. Does that mean saved from eternal damnation, or does that mean saved from your problems and trials in this life? It definitely means that, because if you overcome alcoholism, you have one less problem in your life. If you overcome drugs, you have one less problem in your life. If you overcome being influenced by the media that wants to make you think it's cool to put ink all over your body and your skin, which is harmful to your health, then you have one less problem in your life, right? So, belief, whoever believes in me, well, he was a teacher, he was a philosopher, he taught things. So to say believe in him means to believe in what he taught, right? And if you believe in what he taught, then you're walking the high road, right? So there's Christianity. There's the truth of Christianity. There's the essence of Christianity. All right? Seek God. Seek the truth. Seek righteousness. Seek what is right. Seek the moral high ground. And seek to make that the path and the way for humanity on the whole. Be in the right camp, not in the left camp of leftist, snowflake, liberal, anything goes, progressive, transsexual, transgender, transhumanism, self-destructive sheeple and zombies that are the ones that the corrupt powers that be in this world are endeavoring to funnel into their camp, right? Left camp, right camp. The only true division that exists in this world is that of godly or godless. I'll leave it at that.